All right, so I'm going to talk about creating AI enhanced microlearning. And one of the things that I want to focus on right now, just because this image is there and this is AI generated, I actually created it with Dolly just through very basic prompting and reprompting, is just errors. One of the things that we'll come back to again and again with thinking about AI is just the need to verify the output. And we'll see in the very middle, we have creating AI double dash enhanced micro, and then it messed up the R. And this was by far the best generation I got. And I like to show AI images like that because right from the very, very beginning, they really show how working with AI isn't like just getting an awesome output every time. And a lot of us probably already know this, but it's a matter of just trying and retrying. That's one of the challenges with working AI into a micro learning experience. So here's my basic plan. I'm going to try to keep it as close to 15 minutes as I possibly can. I want to show you the magic, and that's basically a learning experience. And I'm going to give you the QR code. And at the end of this, I'll also pop the link just in the chat so you can have that if you want it. And you can play around with it. I did find out about a slight hiccup with the tech about 8 minutes ago. So I will have a very quick kind of workaround, but it'll give you a sense of how this works. So I'll show you the magic. Then I'm going to pull back the curtain. I kind of think about this as the Penn and Teller style of presentation. I kind of show you the magic and then I show you how it's done. And then I'm going to talk about a little bit about what it means. So what it means to put microlearning and AI as part of the same conversation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you an example, and it's going to link 3. And in fact, in my new version, it's going to link 2 of them. So it's going to link 7 taps with ChatGPT and a program called Poe, which is for creating chatbots. And that's the one I'm going to temporarily get rid of as I go forward. But you'll see what I mean. So, and I'm going to keep talking as this opens up. All right, so it actually did it pretty quickly. So what I did was I created a hypothetical course, and I did it using 7 taps. And many of us, especially because we're at this conference and everything else, have probably used this platform before. And so I'm going to do a very quick flip through, and I'm going to give this to everyone at the end so you can scan it, you can play with it yourself and see what this feels like. So I did a very quick course on how to provide feedback to coworkers. And I went through and I did kind of the generic thing. I kept it very, very short for the sake of this demonstration. You can absolutely make it more interactive. I didn't focus on that because I just want to focus on the AI portion. So you can see basic information, some principles, showing empathy, gives a little bit of information about what that means. So you can imagine, and you can do this entirely from your cell phone. Right? It's entirely mobile friendly. In fact, everything I'm going to show you is going to be mobile friendly so that a learner, whether it's a student or an employee, can go through these modules just on the go.
And hey, Jason, are you trying to show something? Because the only thing we're seeing right now is the an example slide.
Oh, really? Oh, yes. So, because did it not shift to?
It did not.
Interesting. All right. So I'm going to stop sharing. My guess is that because I shifted windows. All right, that is okay.
Don't worry, folks. I got you. I saw it in the chat, and I was thinking the same thing. So that's why I come out of. I'm back in my voice of God mode. Although, Jason, now we lost you. There, now you're back.
Now I'm back. All right, so my guess is that it's sharing because I'm popping back and forth.
Oh, let's see. Yep, there we go. Except now it says it doesn't exist.
It's showing us a window, right?
Oh, there. Now we're seeing login 7 tabs.
Technology is fun. Anyway, so what I was showing you was this, and this will be part of my own workaround. You can see the 7 taps course now, right?
Yes, we can. Now it's up on the screen. You're all good.
All right, awesome. So, and hopefully this will be seamless going forward. All right, so I built the 7 tabs on how to provide feedback to coworkers. And as I was saying before, it gives basic information about here the principles for giving feedback. So again, how to show empathy, how to be specific, how to balance the positive and negative in your comments. So imagine that you have an employee that is working under you that you are giving feedback to and trying to figure out how to make it as constructive as possible and giving them a chance to respond. So I gave basic principles. So that is very kind of in many ways a generic microlearning course. Now, what I've done, and I did this using a chatbot, is I created a chatbot specifically for it. Now, this is where it's going to be clunky because it's not going to actually show it, because apparently if you share on AirMeet, it cuts it out. So
Went
that
ahead
is
and
okay.
shared the link. I shared the direct link to it in the chat. So everybody, you can look to the chat and you will actually
Cool.
see that down there.
All right, awesome. And now you can see ChatGPT, right?
That is correct.
All right, cool. I found a workaround for it. It's okay. I'll just hop in back and forth. So anytime I change windows, it stops sharing. So anyway, so normally what would happen is at the end of that course, you would go into a Poe chatbot. And really, what is happening under the hood is it is sending a scenario through ChatGPT that I've created for the learner. So one of the ways that we can use AI is as a way to just allow for more and more practice. So I just found out right before this presentation that I hit a limit of like 100 messages within like an hour or so, because I had to test it a lot to make sure things were working. So I have a workaround, and it's just going to be to run it directly through ChatGPT. So if you use that chatbot, this is what will happen. And we'll scroll down a little bit and zoom in so you can see it. So the learner will get a message, and it basically initiates a scenario. So it tells them, as it keeps going. All right, so here's a scene. So it actually gives them a scenario to work with. And so when you do it on your own, if you decide to, it's run through the chatbot, so it'll be a little bit less clunky. But this is it. So imagine you're an employee and you get this email, right? Hi, boss. I hope you're doing well. I wanted to ask you a quick question. I've been working here for 5 years, over the last 2 years, da, 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 da. And then the system will automatically give some background here, some context. So this is from someone who's been a valuable employee. He comes to work every day, does all this stuff, but he really has struggled with the technology. And so what the prompt does is it asks the learner to write an email. Now, normally what would happen is you might have multiple choice assessment. You might have something else, but here you get to actually do it. You get to perform the action as close as you can to what you might do on the job, so that someone can actually come in and say, hi, Ron, you're doing great. And I'm just going to leave all the typos there, but you've been having trouble with the technology. So I'm going to keep it very, very basic. All right. I'm not even going to do the end. All right. So I'm going to send that in, and it's going to continue to act as Ron. So it's going to ask for clarification. All right. So I'm just going to do the very basic one. So it actually pushed back and said, could you please provide more specific instructions? Then what it did this as a one and done assessment. I did this just to give you a sense of what this could look like. You can use AI to have it go on for longer, to have the scenario change as it goes along. But what it did is it allowed me to write an email to Ron and get a response. Then at the end, and you can play with this on your own with prompting, it stopped the scenario. It said, this is the end of the scenario. Here are 2 strengths. Here's something to focus on. And then from there, it asks if I have any questions about it. And I can say, no, I'm good. And it says, great, awesome, good job. And then if it does it correctly, yes, it gives me a link. So this allows me to close the loop. To finish things up, click here. Gives me a link. And I will do my workaround now very quickly. So I'm going to pop out, pop back in. All right, so it actually goes into another 7 taps. So I started with 7 taps. I went into a chat where I practiced something that I might really, really be doing on the job. And then it sent me back into 7 taps. So it closed the loop and it says, let's wrap things up. Hopefully this scenario was helpful. And then it told me why I did it, what I got out of it. And then it gives me a chance to type in here. So it basically says, now it's your turn. What did you take away? And so as a learner, again, whether this is a student or an employee, can actually then go through their own self-reflection. And that just took some basic prompting. And it's something that you can just kind of test with. You can actually run directly through a chatbot. So it will be much more, when I give it to you, it'll be much more seamless. And now I'm going to very quickly again pop out and pop back in. I am sorry for that. It just seems like that's what it wants me to do.
It's not you. That's just a limitation on the tech.
Yeah, I think it's just something that it doesn't like it when I pop in and out. Anyway, that was my example. Right? So it actually links a 7 taps with an AI platform and then back to 7 taps. Now, if you want to try it by yourself, and I will, at the very end of this presentation, I can take that link and I will pop it into the chat. Or if you have the ability to scan, I know some people might not, but if you have the ability to scan the QR code, it'll let you into that initial 7 taps. And again, because it's a closed loop, you should be able to get everything, right? And again, I will pop that link, and I know I'm hitting the 13.5-minute mark, all right, but I will pop that link in at the end just into the chat so people have it. So one of the things that's really awesome about AI and microlearning is that it allows for specific targeted practice. And this is something that the learner can do again and again and again and again. One of the issues with traditional assessment is that a lot of times it is a one and done deal. Now, this learner can rerun the scenario over and over and over again. And the other big benefit is that it is personalized and it is active. For me, microlearning is all about just achieving one goal. So practicing here how to write an email with feedback, right? With constructive feedback. So one goal, and then tailoring the learning toward that goal and toward the individual learner. And the other nice thing is that the learner gets immediate feedback. Now, I did this with a bot. You can make the feedback however you want. And with the Poe chatbot, if anyone does decide to play with that, you can actually update files into the knowledge base. That means that you can really make the feedback as specific as you want it to be. I will emphasize that AI is not many things. AI is not magic. It has nuts and bolts as everything else does. It can be clunky. It takes a lot of practice to get things up and running so that the learner can actually take as much from the scenario as possible. It's also not a silver bullet. I recommend, if anyone here is using AI for microlearning, make it very, very targeted, very, very specific. You're going to get more out of it. It's also not perfect. One of the challenges with using AI for learning is that we have to constantly check it and revise and iterate. So I just want to say that it's not any of these things, but it can be extremely powerful. And throughout this presentation, I have been using, no shocker, I don't think, AI. I used Gamma to draft the presentation. I used DALL-E and ChatGPT for any image you used. I used Perplexity for research, and I used Poe for creating the chatbot. So I've actually been linking AI programs as I went along. And so I went a little over the 15 minutes with some of the tech, but if you do want to reach out to me, one of the easiest way to do it is just through LinkedIn, and all of my stuff is on there, and I try to keep on top of my messages and everything. My email is there. So there's my QR code. If you have the ability to scan it, I'll also, again, I will take the link to my LinkedIn profile, pop that in the chat. If anyone wants it, please feel free to reach out to me, talk to me. I'd love to hear from anyone here about AI or not using AI, whatever your angle is. And thank you. That was the end of my presentation.
Well, first of all, everyone, I think Jason deserves a huge round of emojis for that one. That was fantastic. I cannot tell you, some of the specific questions that came in terms of the QA, in terms of the specific prompts you used, did you use a custom GPT? How did you go about that? Definitely, I think we will probably direct those questions specifically to Jason offline. So thank you for putting yourself out there so that people can follow up with you. Because I loved what you did with that in terms of you're using AI to make it truly an interactive experience instead of passive content consumption. And I think that's one of the most powerful things that we can use AI for right now is we can make experiential learning anywhere, and we can do it scalable, which historically there was just no way to do it. You could do some divergent choose your own adventure pathing type stuff, but it just was not the same as what you just showed there.
Yeah, I think that's true. And that's one of the real reasons why, and many of us may have played it with it this way, ChatGPT is powerful because it can take on a role, and you can give it a lot of instructions for what it's going to do. And I did not use a custom GPT or anything. That was actually one of the challenges. If you create your own GPT through OpenAI Store, it's actually much, much easier because you can use 4.0. The real challenge is doing it with 3.5. It's much more difficult. You have to put a lot more.
Well, because that was one of the questions people had is to build what you build, did you have to have the premium version of it? And it sounds like you did not. It would have been easier, but you could have done it for free.
Yep, it is entirely for free. Everything I used was for free. It is a little bit harder. And if anyone wants the prompt, message me, reach out to me. I will send you the prompt. I don't have any attachment to it really. And it did take quite a bit of work. With GPT-4, it was pretty simple. It wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
3.5.
Yeah, because you can actually create the GPT with all the parameters. You can train it around like, hey, this is what I want. You can give it all that ahead of time, so it just automatically knows this is what to do. But if you're taking just the base model, you have to understand how to craft the prompts and design it all to be able to, because that's the beauty and the danger of generative AI is that it can just go as far as the ocean is deep when you're just using it untethered.
Yeah. And one of the real struggles with 3.5, and this is huge when you're creating a learning experience, 3.5 is not very good at following steps. So my prompt tells it specifically, do this, don't do anything until the user responds, right? 3.5 doesn't like to follow those. It likes to do it all in one go.
It likes to do its own little thing.
Yeah, 4 will do it. 4 will stick to it, most of the time. And again, if anyone wants to see the prompt that I used to build this, I'm more than happy to send it along.
No, and I think that also answers some of the questions that people had about, is there a benefit to the 4.0, the, paid version of it versus not? I personally think there is tremendous benefit, whether it's the DALL-E integration, whether it's, again, the difference between 3.5 and 4 is pretty significant in terms of its capability, the custom GPTs. I've got multiple custom GPTs I built for myself for all different purposes. So there's definitely some benefit to it. But again, it just depends on your use cases. So this was fantastic because, again, I think one of the amazing things that we have the ability to do now as learning professionals is truly create experiential learning, even through traditional digital mediums. I mean, it's just absolutely mind-blowing what we can do.
And I think it's going to get more significant. I think one of the things one of the real limits here is that it's all text-based. It's kind of just where we are technologically. I'd be willing to bet within a year, I might be able to do this and it won't have to be text-based. It might actually be video. I might be able to work.
Well, the thing is, if you're on 4.0, you can actually talk to it like a microphone, like you can speak to it and it'll speak
Yeah.
back to you like a person.
Yeah.
So technically, even now today, it doesn't have to only be type keyboard input based. So from an accessibility standpoint, you really could turn up the volume on this. But again, you'd have to think about it from a user experience. And I think your other point that was really great is that it's not just a set it and forget it. It's clear you put a lot of thought, intention, experience design into the planning of this. It wasn't just, hey, go to ChatGPT and like throw things in there and it'll be great, because it wouldn't have been.
Yeah. I would say, for anyone wanting to do this, you just have to embrace the work. AI looks very simple, right? Working with it looks very simple, but it isn't. And even once you feel like you have a handle of it, it changes. Prompts change. Running a prompt today might run very differently than it might in a month.
It acts like my 2-year-old. It acts like my 2-year-old. It does this one day, and then the next day you're like, wait, why did you? I told you to do the same thing. So I get it.
Yep. That's one of the challenges. But if you are on top of it and you are able to, prompt it in certain ways, you can get so much out of it because, and I've created courses like this. When you want to do scenario-based learning, then you end up doing like a weird choose your own adventure thing where you do multiple choices, right? This happens. How would you respond? It is just not the same because then
the triggers and variables, pretty soon you look like a crazy conspiracy theorist, like mapping it all. It goes bonkers real quick.
Yeah. And now we have the technology when we can say, no, actually write the actual email, right? That you would actually write to your coworker in that situation. That is very much, I hate this phrase, but it is sort of a game changer in terms of being able to create a learning experience.
Yes. Well, Jason, for the sake of time, if you're still around at the end, I'll bring you back up at the end of the session and you can hang out upstage or on stage and we'll chill. But thank you so much. One more round of emojis for Jason. Again, I think it was just a fantastic example of seeing how to blend the two technologies and what you can do with generative AI and large language models in e-learning. So thank you for that. All right, so let me do the swap around here. So Jason, I'm sending you backstage till the end.